Howdy, my name is Captain W.J. Perlmutter, speaking to you today from Universal City in beautiful California on a beautiful summer day. I'm here at the Cancer Control Convention where I am representing Poly MVA. Poly MVA is a great product, non-drug related, and it's something that I personally use and something that's kept me at the peak of health for the last 8 years. Now, why do I take Poly MVA? First, let me give you my background. I started out at 17 years of age, entered the United States Navy, where I was photographer's mate, and then went to college and came as a pilot after that. Well, during my training, I was sent to Vietnam, and in Vietnam, I contracted leukemia from exposure to Agent Orange. And leukemia does not show up in your body until later in life, in your late 40s, early 50s. And in my late 40s, I was diagnosed with leukemia. Well, over that period of time, I also became an airline pilot, flying for major airlines, flying all over the world. And as part of being an airline pilot, every 6 months, we are required to take an FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, exam to make sure our health is at tip-top shape. Well, when I was diagnosed with leukemia, I was told by the FAA that I was going to lose my license and I would never fly again, and my career would be over. Looking for an alternative way to cure my leukemia, or to at least keep me on the road to health, my doctor told me about a product called Poly MVA. He'd been to a convention and he heard about it, but he'd never really used it before. So I went online, found out about Poly MVA, got a hold of AMARC, who are the producers of Poly MVA, and when I got a hold of AMARC, they directed me to a researcher named Gary Madsen. Gary Madsen explained to me how Poly MVA worked, and he put me on a protocol, very important protocol that must be followed to see if Poly MVA would work for me. Well, I went on that protocol, and I've been on it for the last 8 years. Well, let's rewind a little bit. Once I was put on the protocol, 6 months later, my doctor sent me to MD Anderson, one of the most famous cancer institutes in America, in Houston, Texas. And MD Anderson, they confirmed that I had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or CLL. I was given all the tests, and I was told that the only way to cure my leukemia, not even cure it, but to alleviate any problems with my leukemia, was eventually to go on chemotherapy. But of course, had I used chemotherapy later on, had my leukemia gotten worse, then I would be disqualified from being an airline pilot. But I continued on Poly MVA. And continue with Poly MVA, I would take a blood test every 6 months. And lo and behold, my white blood cell count, which is one of the markers of leukemia, rose, but ever so slightly. Not at a high rate like most leukemia patients. So 6 months later, I went back, took another blood test, and lo and behold, my leukemia again showed I was fairly stable, rising just very slightly. And the doctors at MD Anderson had asked me, what have you been doing? Why is your leukemia staying so low? They had no answer. So I told them about Poly MVA. And to make a long story short, they told me just continue what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, and what I was doing was taking Poly MVA, and that was keeping my cancer, keeping my leukemia at a level that was acceptable to the FAA and maintaining my license. Well, with the FAA, I was given a waiver, and the waiver was only good for 6 months, and every 6 months I had to get another waiver. Well, after 2 years of being on Poly MVA, I got a surprise letter from the FAA telling me that my waiver was now good for 6 years, not 6 months, but for 6 years. And on top of that, my required testing was only once a year instead of every 6 months. Well, that waiver expired a year ago, and I'm on my second 6-year waiver, and still currently flying as an airline pilot throughout the world. In fact, I leave next week, next Tuesday, I fly to Shanghai, China, where I'll be operating all over Asia for 12 days, then flying back to the United States of America following my trip to Asia. And all of this, I believe, is possible because, again, I've taken no drugs and strictly taken vitamins, mainly Poly MVA with other supplements that have been recommended by AMARC. And I just want to let you know that for the future, anybody who has given a diagnosis of cancer, you don't need drugs. Drugs might work for some people, but I would try alternative medicine first. And for me, the way Poly MVA works, and you can get some more research and information from AMARC International how the actual product works. But for me, Poly MVA is working, and I'm still 8 years later flying for an airline with a disease and a cancer that's supposed to disqualify me from flying altogether. So I'd like to thank AMARC International, the people at AMARC, Al Sanchez, Gary Matson, and all the team at AMARC for all they've done for me and keeping me flying. And I plan on flying the next several years and stay airborne until my age of 65 comes up when I'm forced to retire. And I plan on living a much longer life after 65 thanks to Poly MVA. Thank you very much and have a good day.